Domestic violence is one of the most widespread and dangerous health and safety challenge in our community today. The City of Phoenix is a national leader in preventing and ending domestic violence. This is part of an awareness campaign called Paint Phoenix Purple. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 10 men has experienced sexual or physical violence and are stalked by an intimate partner. It's called domestic violence. Hello, I'm Deborah Cedillo-Dugan. Those devastating numbers represent a widespread health and safety epidemic. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It's a time to talk, educate, and create an awareness about the many resources and services that are available for those victims and the loved ones who are also impacted by this violent act. For the past 9 years, the City of Phoenix has been a part of a local campaign called Paint Phoenix Purple.
Paint Phoenix Purple is the City of Phoenix domestic violence awareness campaign. For 9 years, the goal of the city has been to reduce and eventually eliminate domestic violence here in the City of Phoenix. Our campaign partners include local businesses, community and faith-based organizations, and educational institutions. Our campaign partners are important to us because while the city has taken on a leadership role in ending domestic violence, we rely on the help from our community partners to actively respond and provide some of the solutions.
For the next hour, we'll talk to some Paint Phoenix Purple partners about the myths and misconceptions about domestic violence. We'll learn about some local resources helping survivors and their families. You'll also hear from a young woman whose mother, an unborn child, was murdered by a jealous boyfriend. And finally, you'll meet a victim's advocate from the city's Family Advocacy Center. Domestic violence doesn't discriminate. There are so many kinds of abuse: verbal, physical, emotional, financial, and the list goes on. It's never okay for a partner to be abusive for any reason. Marina Jessup is a well-versed sociologist with Chicanos por la Causa. They have a shelter for abused women, and she runs the community-based programs there. And they also are a partner with the City of Phoenix. It's nice seeing you, Marina. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You have an incredible story yourself, how you even got into sociology and helping others. Can you give us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so it started about over a decade ago, and I got selected to go on the Oprah show for her book club. And I was so impacted by her trip that it inspired me to do something different with my life. So I embarked on a 10-year journey, started going to ASU, got a degree in social work, and then exactly 10 years later, I went back to South Africa and got a degree in social development. And here I am. So I've been with Chicanos por la Causa for going on 6 years now.
And they do such wonderful work in our community. They have so many different programming. We're here to talk today about the Colores and your program-based programming. The Colores is a shelter for women who have been abused. So let's start off with that shelter.
Yeah, so the shelter is for individuals who have survived domestic or sexual violence, human trafficking as well, and they don't have anywhere to go. So there's the shelter, and then there's the community-based program, which I oversee, we serve individuals, same thing, survivors of human trafficking, domestic violence, or sexual violence, and they're out in the community either living with their abuser or trying to get out of a violent situation. So that's where we come in and we help them.
And you have so many programs. Give me a really high-level overview about some of your programming that you, in fact, do offer.
So we offer case management for clients that come in. That's a lot of emotional support. That person is the survivor's listening ear. We do support groups. We offer legal advocacy. So if an individual needs to get court accompaniment, orders of protection, they just need to navigate through the system, the legal system. We're there to help them. So it can be intimidating going through the legal system.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So let's really dive into the myths and the misconceptions, if you will, about domestic violence. Because, you know, somebody said, oh, you know, he just pushed me, or he just yells at me. It's fine, you know. And yeah, he looks at my text, but you know, it's not a big deal. all kind of red flags. All of those are a big no-no. So let's talk about some of those.
Yeah, so especially if somebody has been raised in violence, they're not always prone to see that something can be abusive. So like you said, a lot of it is emotional, it's psychological. It can be looks, intimidating looks. It can be throwing objects. It can be pet abuse if somebody's abusing the pets. There's so many forms. And like I said, if somebody was raised in violence, they'll tend to normalize that kind of behavior. And especially if people around them are saying that's fine, you know, people will minimize the abuse, and the abuser will minimize the abuse too. They'll say, that's not me, or they'll put it back on them as if it's their fault.
That's called gaslighting.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Yes. So yeah, all of a sudden the tables are turned and wait, you're blaming this on me?
Right.
So what would you say are some of the biggest misconceptions about domestic violence?
I would say one of them is victim blaming, a term called victim blaming. So the person is being victimized in the home, but an abuser is a master manipulator, and a lot of times can turn families against that individual, churches can turn against the individual, communities. So if you have everyone against that individual, and they can be re-victimized in the system as well. So just because a cop sides with the abuser does not mean that it's not an abusive situation. So cops can re-victimize, the legal system can re-victimize, you know. So that individual then is labeled with a term what we call victim blaming. So they blame the victim for staying. You know, there's a million reasons why a person wants to stay. Nobody wants to be abused.
Of course not.
Yeah, nobody wants to be abused, but they want a family, they want to be loved. So abuse is mixed with love and abuse, and that's why it's so confusing to the individual, because it's mixed, you know, and the highs are high and the lows are very low. So they come out really confused.
And I'm sure during that period of time too, the financial security really comes into a major, you know, play, a major role.
Yes. So financial abuse, somebody can rack up somebody's credit card, somebody can take a loan out on that person's name and never pay back, essentially ruining their credit. They'll give them an allowance that's not even doable, especially if they have a family to support. So I had one survivor say he only gives me $30 a week for groceries, and I have to buy diapers and everything with that, while he goes out to the bars and can drink and can do whatever he wants. So economic abuse is a thing, and it's real.
So many misconceptions. And, you know, I really want to touch upon the cyclical. I mean, you know, my father did it, my grandfather did it, my mother did it, whatever, because it works both ways. It's not just, I want to make that point that it's not always men abusing the women. So that really comes into play too, because that's what they've taught, that's what they've seen, that's what they've learned.
Right. So it is cyclical. It's a learned pattern, it's a learned behavior. So if somebody's seeing that abuse from the time they're little, then that becomes normal to them. So then they'll repeat the pattern. It's very difficult to break that chain. And we get a lot of abusers actually calling us saying, I want to change, but I don't know how. So even though they want to change and the desire is there to change, with some, not all, they don't know how, you know. So that's challenging. It's very challenging.
And that's where you come in. I mean, you're an excellent resource in the community and obviously a partner of the City of Phoenix. Can you touch upon a little bit about the partnership and what you, again, are providing to all those who do want help?
Yeah. So we offer services to those who are needing help. So the City of Phoenix, other agencies will refer clients to us. So if they see people who are undergoing abuse, they'll give us they'll give them our number, so we can offer services through referrals. We also help with economic abuse too, so we have classes on that. Like I said, the legal work. We also have a group of survivors themselves who are trained. They're now in a good place in life, and they're trained on domestic violence, sexual violence, and then they go out into the community and reach even further into the community, much more further than what we can go as an agency. And through them, they bring clients to us, just word of mouth, you know, giving out business cards, giving out flyers, educating the community. Because like you said, there's so many misconceptions. And especially in the Hispanic community, I mean, that's who we serve, but we see a lot of them coming up through Mexico, Central and South America, and beliefs run deep, like you're getting married and this is where you have to stay. So then we have so many survivors say, my dad told me I had to stay, not knowing that she was going to enter a violent situation, So we educate them. We have tables, talk tables. We have individuals come in and they can talk about these things, what's normal, what's not normal, what does abuse look like, what does a healthy relationship look like? Because that's not modeled for a lot of people.
It's actually really incredible. I mean, at any given time, what is the Colora shelter? How many women are actually housed at any given time, and how long can they stay?
So at the shelter themselves, they can stay up to 3 months, and sometimes on occasion it can get extended if needed, but they serve between 25 and 29 individuals and their families. So their children can come too, teenage children up to 18. And then they also serve homeless individuals as well.
Absolutely. And they're really truly helping them get back on their feet. I'm sure with job placement and the readiness of getting back into the workplace, housing, kind of a one-stop shop.
All of that, yes. And then the community-based program, not everybody can go to a shelter, or not everybody wants to go to a shelter. So then that's where we come in as well. And like you said, offer services and finding jobs, finding, daycare, transportation sometimes. And with a mobile advocacy program, sometimes it really helps, because especially if an individual does not have transportation, we can go to them.
You go to them through the mobile.
Yeah.
Excellent. And you're funded?
Through the state, and then also federal grants.
Wonderful.
So we do half and half.
Great. So what's the future look like? You guys are making a difference. Big impact in the community.
Yeah. It's growing. I mean, just in 5 years, we started out with just myself and another advocate, and in 5 years we've grown to a team of 15. Last year alone, we served over 800 individuals, not including their children. So it's growing so fast. It's a huge need.
It's a huge need, but you're making a difference, and you're seeing the people that you helped maybe 1, 2, 3 years ago and where they're at today.
Yes.
And then you're using that resource and bringing them back out in the community. So it's wonderful.
Thank you. It's really nice to see people come back full circle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just like anything else.
Yeah.
Really, really appreciate it. How can folks get a hold of your CPLC, and give maybe a hotline or a website they can go to?
Sure. So they can call for the community-based program at 623-247-0464, option number 3.
Okay.
And they can find out any information that they need. If it's the person being abused themselves, they have to be the person that calls.
Okay. And I'm sure that's bilingual services across the board.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, all staff are bilingual.
Wonderful. Marina, thank you so much. It was a pleasure meeting you. I love their story about Oprah and how that changed, one person, one thing, one event can totally change your life. And I bet you it was really cool to go to South Africa.
It was.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for what you do in our community.
Thank you.
The victim is not only traumatized in a volatile domestic violence situation. What happens to other family members or children of the abuser when they too experience trauma by simply witnessing it? Up next, we'll hear from an expert from the Arizona Child and Adolescent Survivor Initiative, or better known as ACAZI.
Hello, I'm Phoenix Councilwoman Ann O'Brien. The city's Paint Phoenix Purple campaign is underway to increase community awareness about domestic violence. In America, 33% of adolescents are victims of physical, verbal, or emotional dating abuse. I was one of them. It was the typical college dating relationship that quickly took a turn for the worse when he wanted to control me and everything I did. I endured his verbal and emotional abuses. However, through lots of support and education, I was able to walk away from the abuse. If you or someone you know is a victim, please call the number on your screen. Phoenix is committed to becoming a national leader in preventing and responding to domestic violence.
Hello, I'm Phoenix Councilman Jim Waring. The city's Paint Phoenix Purple campaign is underway to increase community awareness about domestic violence. Economic abuse is a commonly used practice to gain power and control over an intimate partner. If you or someone you know is a victim, please call 1-800-799-7233. Phoenix is committed to becoming a national leader in preventing and responding to domestic violence.
Welcome back. When domestic violence victims are physically or mentally abused, what happens to family members who witness this abuse? Joining us now is Bianca Harper. She is a clinical associate professor at the ASU School of Social Work, and she oversees the Arizona Child and Adolescent Survivor Initiative within the Family Violence Center. It's called ACAZI. She is a clinical social worker and has worked with psychotherapy and family crisis counseling. Bianca, thanks for joining us for today. That's a mouthful, ACAZI. You have been around this circuit for a while, many, many years. How did you get into social work?
So thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
So just to share a little bit about my background. So I've been working with survivors of relational trauma for about 18 years now. It started out working in family advocacy centers as a clinician. I've also worked as a forensic interviewer in a couple different family advocacy centers, and my heart's in the work, and I still have the passion for the work, this far into the field. And so as I've been doing that work, I've recognized there's so many different types of relational trauma and different ways that children and families are impacted. So my most recent role is now with ACAZI, and within this role, we support survivors of intimate partner homicide. So I've kind of had the spectrum in terms of experience in working with relational trauma survivors, and this is kind of where I am now.
It's incredible. It's one thing to maybe lose a parent or a loved one through domestic violence, but you've had that loss, but then you also have a loss and you're grieving, but how does that impact what happens to you as a person too? A lot's going on.
Right, absolutely. So there's so many ways that...
The survivor, I should say. Yeah.
Right, there's so many ways that survivors are impacted by this type of devastating loss. And to begin with, if you think about just the traumatic loss of a parent or a primary caregiver in such a horrendous way, it's incredibly difficult. And so we have...
Violent, it's a violent act.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we have, children and other survivors, which are other family members, who are struggling with just the death itself, with the traumatic way in which the death occurred, and then all of the other shifts that oftentimes happen in their lives as a result of the homicide. So for example, there's a lot of changes that will occur, like that the children may be going into a new home environment with new caregivers. They may be involved in many different systems now as a result of the homicide. So for example, maybe now they're involved in mental health treatment, they're involved with DCS, perhaps they're involved with the court system. There's so many different systems that families are involved in, so there's a shift with that piece as well. Also what comes with the shift in potentially being with new caregivers and a new environment. Children also are now in perhaps new communities, new neighborhoods. They might potentially be in new schools. Mm-hmm. So there's a traumatic loss, which is the loss of really critical piece, and mm-hmm. all of the struggles with healing that come with that, and then all these other changes that happen as well. So that can be incredibly difficult for a child to be able to understand and cope with.
And just totally comprehend, because at one level, again, the loss, mm-hmm. but then, and I'm sure you have, there are young people or children that are now adults, and we actually will be talking to one of them that mm-hmm. maybe have witnessed the actual violent act and the actual homicide. That's mm-hmm. at a whole other level.
Absolutely, and with the families that we work with within ACAZI, we have families where the children did witness the homicide and or were in the home or wherever the homicide occurred. And so, there's those added layers of trauma that are associated with just the proximity to the homicide as well. And I think the other piece that's important to consider is not only do children go through all of these incredible challenges as resulting from the homicide, but also their new caregivers need an incredible amount of support. And so, oftentimes—
And patient and understanding.
Absolutely. They're oftentimes struggling in similar ways. So their new caregivers might be family members of the loved one that was killed. So, they also are going through their own grief, their own traumatic loss. And oftentimes they're having to sort of put that aside to make sure that the children's needs are being met and that, they're able to do everything they need to for that child. And so, caregivers, just as children, need a tremendous amount of supports throughout this process, and really advocacy to really support their healing.
So specifically, Akazi's there for support. Let's really dive in and talk about what you do on a daily basis for many, many, many people.
Sure. So Akazi was developed in order to meet these needs, to provide a variety of supports to child and adolescent survivors and their caregivers. So we have, all of our services are really embedded in a case management model. So we offer wraparound support to children and families who are impacted by intimate partner homicide. Specifically, we offer services like trauma therapy. So we contract with trauma therapists throughout our state who specialize in working with youth who have experienced relational trauma. And so we offer that, which is one of our most requested services. We also offer advocacy support, and so this is more of sort of the traditional victim advocacy types of services. So we're able to support families with what they need as they're working alongside, the courts or other issues that are coming up that they might need service or support around. Our staff are able to support them in those ways. I think something that makes their advocacy piece a bit unique is that our staff are able to provide long-term support. So they work alongside and collaboratively with other advocates that might be working with the family, but they can also continue on long-term in order to support the families. We also offer mentoring services.
Wonderful.
And so this is another great way for youth to be connected with a mentor to provide that support.
So how long, and ASU is in the business of many, many things, because this is, this is through this organization, Akazi is through ASU. How are you funded, and how long have you been around?
So our program began in 2016, and we are funded through the Victims of Crime Act, which allows us to provide free services to families. We're able to serve survivors from birth to age 22. So we have a range. So we actually are able to also serve that young adult population of survivors. And so those are some of the ways that we're able to really make sure that we can provide services to as many families as possible. A few other things that I think make us unique in regards to our services is that they're not time limited, so families can join our services for as little or as long a length of time as they would like to, at no cost.
At no cost, yes.
We are statewide, which is really important for families to know as well, because we can serve families who are throughout our state and rural communities and other communities. So we serve all counties throughout our state. And also, it doesn't matter when the intimate partner homicide occurred, as long as there are survivors between birth and age 22, we can serve them. So, it doesn't matter if that homicide was, a week ago or several years ago, we have the capacity to provide those services. But one thing I did want to go back to in regards to services is there's just a few others I just wanted to briefly highlight.
Absolutely.
One also is that we partner with an organization out of Northern Arizona, Healing Lands, to be able to provide some therapeutic outdoor adventures for youth.
Absolutely.
So that allows us to take youth on a week-long river trip, and sometimes that'll also look like a weekend camping trip. And it's a really great way for youth survivors to come together in an outdoor setting, get to know each other. The focus isn't specifically on the homicide or the traumatic loss, although they all know they're there for the same reason. So it's a really great way just to provide support.
Yeah, and to emphasize they're not alone.
Absolutely.
They're not alone.
Absolutely. There's such power in that, shared lived experience.
Yes, absolutely. And you are one of the community partners with the City of Phoenix for Paint Phoenix Purple. So the connectivity too that you have with the city and the partnership, we surely appreciate.
Yes, absolutely. We're very thankful to be a part of that partnership. And I think through that we've also been able to collaborate with so many community providers where we all have this shared vision around supporting survivors and ultimately the prevention side of domestic violence. So it's been a great partnership for us. The one other, as you were mentioning about the the ability for survivors to come together and know they're not alone. Another way that we're able to do that within ACASI is through support groups. So we offer peer support groups for caregivers, for children, and that's exactly the purpose. It's just to allow survivors to come together, support one another, learn from one another. It's a tremendous way for them to feel supported and feel validated and heard.
Absolutely. One person, one comment can change your whole perspective.
Right.
It really can. So doing very, very important work in our community. We really appreciate it because it is, it will rock your world. Obviously you lose a loved one, but again, the people that are left behind, how are they, how are they surviving it? So thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for being a partner with the city as well.
Thank you for having me.
Now for more information on ACASI, you can go to asu.edu/FVC/ACASI, or you can call 602-496-1327. Up next, hear one woman's personal journey of healing after her mother and unborn brother were murdered by her boyfriend.
Hello, I'm Phoenix Councilwoman Deborah Stark. The City of Phoenix Paint Phoenix Purple campaign is underway to increase community awareness about domestic violence. The cost of intimate partner violence annually exceeds $5.8 billion, including $4.1 billion in direct health care expenses. If you or someone you know is a victim, please call the number on your screen. Phoenix is committed to becoming a national leader in preventing and ending domestic violence.
Hello, I'm Phoenix Councilwoman Laura Pastor. The city's Paint Phoenix Purple campaign is underway to increase community awareness about domestic violence. Did you know the most urgent need domestic violence survivors have is the need for safe, affordable, and accessible housing? If you or someone you know is a victim, please call the number on your screen. Phoenix is committed to becoming a national leader in preventing and ending domestic violence.
On March 25th, 2007, life changed forever for our next guest, Destiny Rivera. She received a hysterical call from her sister about her mother. All her sister kept saying was that he hurt her. He hurt her. Time stopped because what she said after was life-changing. Her mother's boyfriend murdered her and her unborn child. How do you recover from something like that? It's been a journey, and thanks to a lot of therapy and counseling, she is ready to share her story with the hopes it doesn't happen to someone else. Destiny, you are so brave and courageous to be here today.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Thank you so much to be here and to share with us your unbelievable, devastating story. I'm so, so sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
It's been 14 years.
Yes.
And time keeps marching on, but guess what? I'm sure it doesn't get any better. It just gets different.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it just gets different. I actually hadn't looked it up until this morning, and it hit me. It's been 14 years. Yeah, it's a long time. A long time.
What do you remember about that day?
Sorry. I apologize.
That's okay. That's okay. It's an emotional time. And, again, you share with us what you want. with the hopes of, like I said, of helping others.
Yes.
Your mother was in a volatile relationship, one that she wanted to get out of.
She was. Honestly, that day rocked our entire family. So it truly is an honor to be here to speak on behalf of my family. Life changed for us completely.
In a moment.
Yeah.
In a moment.
I received a call from my sister Jessica. She's my older sister. She had got a call from his family, the man that murdered my mom. And they just told her that she needed to get to my mom's apartment. She called me right after. She didn't know the extent of it. The way the circumstances happened. Do I get into exactly?
You can share with us exactly how much you want to share. This is a story that was in the news. It was covered, highly covered, high-profile case because this person was charged with double homicide due to the murder of your mother and her child. So what do you recall of that day? You received the call. And you had, I believe, it was your a younger sibling and a niece and a nephew were also there at the house when this happened, correct?
They were. My sister never used to go out at all. She was always at home. She had 2 younger kids. That night, she just decided to go out. I actually remember she didn't want to, and we kept telling her, like, you need to go have some fun. And my mom, she was going to watch the kids. So it was my youngest niece, and I'm sorry, the younger one was my niece. Her name is Alize, and she was, I think she was 2 or 3 at the time. Mm-hmm. And then my nephew, he was, I think, 4. And my little sister was 8. Mm-hmm. And so they were all there with my mom. From what my sister says, because she can remember, she was 8 years old, so she does remember. She heard them fighting, she heard them arguing. She went out to check, and he was attacking my mom. My mother was stabbed to death. He stabbed her, I believe, over 14 times. He actually went to attack my little sister, and she went into the room with my niece and nephew, and they went into this closet, and it was a very deep closet, the type where I had explained it to you prior, but when there's like stairs, it goes super deep in, mm-hmm. And so she got them and she went into that closet. When she heard him leave is when she got out and she went to go check on my mom. My mom was still alive at the time, mm-hmm. And my mom told her to go and get help. And she said, tell the girls that I love them. And she passed. Mm-hmm. My little sister, therefore, went and got the 2 little ones, and they walked barefoot in the middle. I believe it was early in the morning. It was from First Street and Buckeye. They started making their way to my older sister's house, which was on 35th Avenue, I believe, in Buckeye. So it was quite a way that they had to walk. And they ended up getting stopped. Like a cop ended up seeing them walking. They were maybe about like 5 minutes from my sister's house. And that's when everything just unraveled.
That's when you had an earthquake on your soul. Mm-hmm. And they made that call for you.
I was washing clothes at a laundromat.
You
Mm-hmm.
always remember exactly what you were doing.
I know, it's like yesterday.
At the time you got the call, I believe your ex-husband had just picked you up, mm-hmm. and you just said, we have to go, we don't know how bad it is. How bad is it?
It was very strange how it happened. He mm-hmm. was actually driving by, the kids were with him that weekend, mm-hmm. and he was driving by the laundromat, and I was getting the clothes out of the car, and I seen him, and the kids were actually not in their seatbelts, and so I waved him down.
To put those kids in the seatbelt.
Yeah, he was taking them to McDonald's. It was early in the morning, and I waved him down. So it's so strange how everything just fell into place. It's like God knew that I wasn't gonna be able to drive or something, you know? But he looped back around, and as he was coming around is when my sister Jessica called me, and she told me that I had to hurry up and get to my mom's apartment. And I could tell in her voice something bad, like it was something bad. I can hear it in her voice. And I told her like, what's going on, what happened? And she just kept saying like, he hurt her. I don't know what he did, but he hurt her. And all I kept thinking was like, he better not have hit her. Like, you know, I didn't ever even fathom that it could be something more. I couldn't even think that, you know, he would, I didn't know him very well, but he had never shown any signs of hitting her prior. But he was always very strange to me too. He wouldn't come out the car, like he was very quiet. And looking back, honestly, like I could see the signs. She was always in a rush. She seemed happy, but I remember she was always going, always in a rush whenever she was with him. I would always tell her, sit down and relax for a little while, you know, have him come in. And she was always in a rush. And so to find out, so she called me. She said I needed to hurry up and get to her apartment. And I remember just opening the door of my ex-husband's car, and I just got in and I told him, you need to drive to my mom's house. And he did, quick. We started going, and me and my sister hung up briefly because she said she's gonna try to find out what's going on. She called me back right away. We were going up Grand, and we were crossing underneath the intersection of Grand and Indian School. And I remember we had just went over where the ramp is, and she called me and she said that she was like, he killed her, and she was screaming. And I just remember, I'm sorry, she actually said he stabbed her. And I remember it switched from going to her apartment, it switched to, what hospital do I go to? What hospital do I go to? And I just kept telling her, and she couldn't talk. She just kept screaming. And I was like, what hospital? And she was like, they're telling us to go to the apartment. And she was like, and that's when she told me, she was like, he killed her. And I fell to the floor of the passenger side. I just remember falling to the floor, and everything changed for years. I remember being so angry. So,
thank you for sharing that with us. I know it's difficult, and it doesn't get any easier. You're on a path right now of continued healing, and
yes.
And if you've sought out the therapy, you're a single mom raising your own children.
Yes.
And how has that impact you on how you're being a mother and what you're teaching your kids,
man.
and the therapy and the counseling you've gone through? Thank goodness through Akasi. We just talked to Bianca, and through that resource.
I am so grateful for Akasi. Before Akasi, we didn't know that there was help. Honestly, we just continued to just live, like, and try to. Me and my sister both had kids at the time. My little sister was 8. What could we do?
So you became mothers, really, for your youngest sister.
My older sister did, 100%. I have no responsibility for that. Hands down, she did. She is a hero, honestly. Like, she just went with it. And I mean, down to even like funeral planning, everything, like she really just went with it. I was broken for years, and Akasi came around. We found out about Akasi through another unfortunate situation, but I am so happy that we did come across Akasi, because we all started counseling. The counseling was free to us. It was amazing. I didn't go to counseling for those years, not because I didn't want to. I didn't have insurance. I didn't even know where to go, what to do. I knew I was angry. I was self-medicating in different ways. There were so many things that I was doing that were
masking your pain.
And I wasn't fixing anything, you know. Through my journey, I've been able to do a lot of things. It's not just with Akasi, but also going like to Bible study, and you know, just all these women that have come into my life, and they've shown me what like a healthy relationship looks like, you know. Going to therapy it helped me to identify the anger, where it's coming from, and who is to blame for that too. I blamed a lot of people in my life for the passing of my mom. I never honestly had really looked at Israel, the man that did that to my mom. It was too much to look at. I couldn't, and I didn't even know that I couldn't. And through therapy, I was able to see, like, he is the person that's responsible.
Right.
And so that started the process of being able to have some forgiveness. And it's a process. It 100% is. But I want to be free, you know.
And he's on death row.
He is.
Double
He is.
homicide.
Yes.
And you are able to live your life with your children, your family, in a healthy manner.
Yes.
That's a good thing.
It
and your
is.
mom's looking upon you right now, saying that's a good thing. That's
She's
a good
impacted. What happened to her? Yes, that happened to her, but my mom was so much more. She was amazing.
thing. Tell us about your mom.
Oh man,
What would you want people to know about and to remember about your mother?
Yeah, anybody who ever even mentions my mom, she was just love. Honestly, she was kind. She was very genuine. She was very special. No mean bone in her body at all. She was a very giving person, like those people that, you know, take their shirts off their back for that person. Like, that's who my mom was. We learned, and we were so blessed, me and my older sister, to have her for so many years, because we were able to see who she was, and we are able to strive to be that woman today. My little sister, we've been able to show her those qualities because she only had her for a short time. So me and my older sister do our best to show her, you know, what and who my mother was. She remembers, but we had her for such a long time. I was 20 when she passed away.
And you know, and her light will continue to shine within
And
you,
it does.
your sister, and your younger sister. So
She was strong. She was a strong impact on all of our family. Losing her was hard. It was extremely hard for us because she was special.
So your advice to others is to seek help.
Yes. I learned so much from my mom and what happened, you know? And not just like as the individual who's going through it, but like as family members looking in on it. Pay attention, you know, ask questions. I wish I would have. I seen something was off, but I didn't ask any questions. I just wanted her to be happy. And honestly, I thought about, you know, what advice would I give? See the situation for what it is. I think because I've also been in a domestic violence relationship, I think what we do when we're in that bubble, even if somebody is coming in and telling us, you know, get out, you know, it's a bad situation, I think it's important for us to, the person that's going through that, is for us to look at the other individual as a whole. Not as us putting a bow on it or trying to fancy up the relationship, you know, to try to make it seem something that it's not. To pay attention to those red flags, and it's never too late to get out. No matter how much it hurts, you know, how much fear is behind it. It's the best decision that I made in my experience was to get out of that situation. But I had to look at it for what it was, not for who I wanted him to be, but for who he was. And that was unhealthy, and I had to get out, so.
And the good news is there's help.
Yes.
There's help out there for resources for somebody who's in the midst of it. There's help for somebody who's lost a loved one, and we are so very happy you've come a long way.
Thank you.
And you are living a healthy life. The pain will never go away, and it really doesn't get any better because she's gone. But life does continue, and life will change, you know.
It's what I do with it,
and things do change.
you know.
So, wishing you the best of luck.
Thank you.
For you and your family, and things are looking so up for you. I know you got a great job, and you got a house on your own, and all those are very, very positive things for you.
Yes.
So, wishing you well for your entire family.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for
appreciate
spending this personal, very personal story with us.
Thank you. It was an honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again. Again, you're so brave and courageous. Thank you. We wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you.
Honestly. Stay with us. The City of Phoenix and many other organizations have resources and services to help.
Hello, I'm Phoenix City Councilwoman Betty Guardado. The city's Paint Phoenix Purple campaign is underway to increase community awareness about domestic violence. Arizona has many local shelters, domestic violence programs, counseling, legal help, and other resources for victims and their children. If you or someone you know is a victim, please call the number on your screen. Phoenix is committed, and I am committed, to becoming a national leader in preventing and responding to domestic violence. Thank you for your attention.
Hi, I'm Phoenix City Councilman Sal DeCiccio. The city's Paint Phoenix Purple campaign is underway to increase community awareness about domestic violence. Dating violence can occur in person, electronically, or it may occur between a current or former dating partner. If you or someone you know is a victim, please call 1-800-799-7233. Phoenix is committed to becoming a national leader in preventing and ending domestic violence.
The City of Phoenix's Family Advocacy Center provides comprehensive services to victims of domestic and sexual violence, homicide, and other violent crimes. Their domestic violence team's mission is to assist those getting out of an abusive situation and provides counseling, case management, and other community resources. Joining us now is Debbie Valenzuela. She is a victims advocate from the Family Advocacy Center. It's nice seeing you, Debbie.
Thank you.
So, big picture, you are also a survivor of domestic violence, and now you work with FAC, so you know firsthand what it's like to go through that traumatic turmoil of events.
Yes, Deborah, it was a very traumatic event. I look back now and I see, wow, I went through all that. I am here now, helping other survivors and getting them to understand, you know what, it is easy once you get through it and you ask yourself, how did I get through it? If I can get through that, I can get through anything. And now, as a victim advocate, I love to educate right on the scene. It's a different story when you're in the Family Advocacy Center once the issue has happened, but being out on scene, it's a totally different aspect of...
Well, let's step back for a second, because you are a survivor. So again, as I mentioned, knowing firsthand what these women and men go through. Family Advocacy Center, we talked a little bit about its mission. It is part of the City of Phoenix under the Human Services Department. What does FAC offer?
FAC is a one-stop center where victims of domestic violence, sex assault, homicide, any type of violent crime victim can go in and seek guidance, assistance. If they have questions about the process, what happens after a police report has been made, they have advocates there to support them and assist them with orders of protection. Also safety planning. Even if you know you are a victim, but you do not know how to get out or you don't know what to do, what the next steps are to do, victim advocates are there to support you and educate you. This is the safe way to do it, and this is what you can do, and these are the people and places that can assist you as a victim.
You also have the forensic part of it too, where if somebody is sexually assaulted, that they can actually go through the exam there as well, correct?
Correct. A victim of strangulation can go and receive a free exam. And that exam assists with the prosecution if there's any evidence. It's very crucial. When I am out on scene with victims of strangulation, a lot of times victims are scared. They don't want to go get a physical exam because they don't know what all that entails. As a victim advocate, I explain to them, this is what's going to happen. I will be there to support you and let you know each step of the way what is going to happen. And this is how it's going to help with the prosecution to make that abuser accountable for what they did to you.
So let's talk about you as an advocate. You are really holding their hand the entire way. Once they've made that call, or let's kind of walk us through if PD is at a call and they know they need assistance. The good news is the City of Phoenix, you are now mobile. Everybody doesn't have to come to you, you can go to them. Walk me through if in fact there is a domestic violence situation or scene, they call you to come out to the scene. What happens then?
So the Phoenix Police Department calls me and lets me know what type of scene they are on. If it's a domestic violence scene, I'm there with the victim. I let the victim know this is the investigation process that law enforcement's going to take. And if it's a victim of strangulation, I let them know this is what needs to be taken to help with the investigation, and I will be with you from the time the detective interviews you, from the time to the examination, from getting an order of protection, from also knowing what's going to happen if the abuser was arrested. I can sit on the phone with you and have you talk to the initial appearance judge to let the judge know, this is how this has impacted me. Can you keep the abuser in a little longer so I can safety plan or so I can go to a safe place? Once that has happened, there's more events that happen, such as court, such as I lost my job. Now I can't work because the abuser made me get fired. We all are also there to assist victims obtain employment, do a resume. If they need to go to school, we'll assist with getting them resources to agencies to go back to school. Child care. There's so many resources that a victim advocate can assist a victim of domestic violence.
There is ways out. It's called a SAFE plan, and the Family Advocacy Center can help you create that plan, and you can get out safe. Tell me about that plan. What do they need to bring? What do they need to plan? And how do they execute it?
So you have to start little by little and have a trusted person that you can take safe documents such as Social Security, birth certificates, marriage license, prescription numbers, a telephone charger. You want to start gathering those things little by little and take them to a safe place. You can't do it all at once because the abuser can say, hey, where's all that stuff gone? So little by little, the safe documents such as the ones I just mentioned, clothes, if you have to have a bag, a couple of items, take it to that safe place or person. You know, a lot of times abusers think, oh, they're taking their lunch or they're taking their backpack to work. If you can pack a couple of items in your backpack that you take every day to work and leave it at work, that can be a safe place also. Trust and talk to a family member or loved one or even a coworker. Co-workers are very helpful nowadays. You do everything through Skype, you do everything through the internet. If they don't have access, talk to a coworker.
And technology is huge. Yeah. Technology is huge. I mean, you know, the person, you know, maybe, you know, looking at your text messages or your email or looking at your history on your computer. Do you have a component to it, the FAC, that's some do's and don'ts for that as well?
Over at the FAC, not much technology. We do get on the phone with them and talk to a technologist that deals with nothing but domestic violence abusers, and they sit with them and they talk to them, okay, you have a laptop. This is how you go through to make sure that your location is off. This is how you erase your history. If you have a cell phone, what cell phone do you have? An iPhone? Do you have an Android? This is how we're going to walk through to erase your history or even to erase your locations where you've been.
That is key, especially in today's world of technology. So you help the victims, you help the families, the children, get them back into society. And I think the big thing too is working with the City of Phoenix. You have everything at your fingertips with police, with fire, with the court, helping them get through that process. So that's wonderful. We really thank you for what you do on a daily basis. It's huge and making a difference. Anything else you'd like to add about the FAC?
Well, FAC is a one-stop shop. Even if you have not reported, even if you are scared to report, even if you have questions of reports that you have made in the past and you see that nothing is moving, you have no idea what has happened with those past reports, the FAC will assist you with connecting you with the detectives that have that report, that are investigating. 9 times out of 10, victims of domestic violence that have reported don't hear about what has happened. Well, it's because either they've changed their phone number or they moved, and us as advocates, we connect them with the detectives to let them know this is the victim, this she wants to continue to prosecute, and here she is. And that's when the investigation starts up again.
And that's huge. Give us a phone number for people who may be watching right now.
602-534-2121.
24/7.
Correct, 24/7.
24/7. Debbie, thank you so much for everything. We really appreciate it. Keep up the great work, and it really makes a huge difference having that mobile van or car, if you will, to go out and help others.
Thank you.
Thank you. Domestic abuse happens every single moment in Phoenix. This program is part of the city's commitment to educate and to provide resources for those in need. This is part of the Paint Phoenix Purple campaign. If you or someone you know is being abused, know that you're not alone. There is help. Call anytime 24/7 to 1-800-799-SAFE. You can also visit the City of Phoenix website at Phoenix.gov/domestic violence. Stay safe and get help immediately. You're not alone. For Phoenix TV, I'm Deborah Cedillo Dugan.